Global warming has caused the glaciers to melt, flooding the Earth's surface and forcing survivors to live in floating cities scattered across the vast ocean. But the water hides unknown dangers beneath. One such city, Junk City, is home to just 72 people. The city's sentries are always on alert, watching for threats. Suddenly, one of them spots something in the distance, a group of fins cutting through the waves. He urgently asks for his partner's binoculars, and upon seeing the massive school of fins heading their way, he orders an evacuation and sounds the alarm. However, the loud bell makes him an easy target. Despite being perched on a tower, a shark leaps high, seizing him in its jaws before vanishing beneath the water. Panic erupts in the city. People scatter, but the predators relentlessly pick them off one by one, plunging the floating settlement into chaos and destruction. Amid the turmoil, a young woman named Bia is hidden in a barrel by a man who sacrifices himself to save her. From her hiding spot, Bia watches in horror as the rest of her community is devoured. The scene shifts to a larger town called Redeemer, home to 436 people. A sentry, monitoring a radio, notices a distress signal from Junk City. The operator tries to make contact, but the sentry confirms that Junk City appears to have vanished. They decide to send Dylan Barrick, a seasoned sea wolf, to investigate. Meanwhile, at the Westron Ocean Research Station, a scientist named Dr. Shaw contacts Barrick, urging him to hurry, as his team is eager to attach scrubbers to their rocket. Dr. Nichols, another scientist, reports that the rocket is nearly ready and the weather is perfect for launch. However, they're missing key components to complete the experiment, and even if everything goes as planned, there are only enough scrubbers for one attempt. Nichols warns that temperatures are rising daily, and they need to launch the scrubbers into the atmosphere soon to have any hope of reversing the warming trend. Shaw gives the team 48 hours to complete the mission. A helicopter is dispatched from a rescue operation to assist Junk City, arriving faster than Barrick's boat. The pilot reports finding a survivor, Bia, at the wreckage of the town. After emerging from the barrel, Bia is once again pursued by sharks, but a boat arrives just in time to save her. A swarm of sharks chases the boat, but it manages to escape. Barrick offers Bia some fresh water, but warns her to use it sparingly, as it's a precious resource in these times. Meanwhile, Nathan, the pilot, returns to Savior and reports encountering massive sharks, with one particularly enormous creature leading the group. Barrick brings Bia to the Westron Station, but she hesitates to leave the boat, fearing for her safety. He reassures her that the station is the safest place left on Earth, having survived the global flood and armed with plenty of missiles. However, Bia insists that rockets won't protect them from the sharks. Dr. Nichols and Dr. Shaw arrive on the boat, informing Barrick that Bia can stay aboard as they will all travel to Savior, which has agreed to supply them with iridium for electrical contacts. They also express their interest in speaking with Bia once they reach Savior. Left alone with her, Dr. Shaw shows Bia a massive rocket equipped with a specialized device called a CO2 scrubber. He explains that the excess CO2 in the atmosphere is causing the ice caps to melt, leading to the flooding of the planet. The team developed the scrubber to attach to the rocket, and once launched, it could reverse the warming process. Dr. Shaw emphasizes that the project involves the best minds, but they welcome all help. As they prepare for departure, Dr. Nichols shows Barrick a sensor that needs to be attached to a shark. Barrick, still shaken from his encounter in Junk City, firmly declines, saying he has no desire to go near any sharks again. Later, in a briefing, Dr. Nichols explains that as the ocean heats up, marine life is dying off, leaving sharks without food. With no other options, they are now hunting at the surface, and humans have become their primary target. She warns that the dying ocean will drag humanity down with it. Barrick presents radar images that survived from Junk City, and Dr. Nichols is shocked by the sheer number of sharks in one place. When asked about the enormous creature in the middle, Barrick suggests they may be facing a mutated alpha female, potentially the mother of the shark pack, which seems to be heading for Savior. Once they reach Savior, the group warns the leaders about the looming shark threat. However, the leaders are skeptical, doubting that sharks could be so organized and dangerous. They question where else they could possibly evacuate to, as Westron isn't equipped to handle a large influx of people. Dr. Shaw stresses that Savior must strengthen its defenses. With little time left, the locals decide to prepare for battle instead. The residents of Savior begin a ritual war dance to lure the sharks toward the shore. As the predators approach, the warriors pierce them with spears. Hoping for a big catch, they lower a reinforced hook into the water. The alpha shark takes the bait, dragging the hook down and collapsing the tower. Amidst the chaos, more sharks attack the city, forcing everyone to flee as quickly as possible. With the boat positioned far from the pier, Barrick bravely decides to swim towards it. As he makes his way, a shark gives chase, but Dr. Nichols distracts the predator by striking the dock with an oar. Meanwhile, the city's warriors continue their valiant fight against the sharks, but the city's defenses begin to collapse under pressure, with explosions echoing in the background. As Barrick reaches the boat, he realizes someone is attempting to steal it. A fierce struggle ensues between Barrick and the thief, who ends up dangling over the side of the boat. In a swift, terrifying moment, a shark leaps from the water and bites off the thief's head. The others, seeing the urgency, decide to swim to the boat as well. The cameraman from Savior joins them, carefully holding the iridium case. They all manage to climb aboard safely and fend off the remaining sharks as they set sail, leaving the now devastated city behind. During their escape, Dr. Payne Nichols theorizes that the alpha female shark is capable of controlling the others through electromagnetic waves and bioimpulses. Dr. Shaw agrees and suggests they might be able to turn this phenomenon against the sharks. Soon, Barrick spots an enormous pack of sharks trailing them, led by the alpha female. He hands the helm over to Nichols and heads below deck to increase the boat's speed. Dr. Shaw contacts the station, urging them to prepare for the operation as the iridium is on its way. She then explains her bold plan to the group. There's a dormant underwater volcano nearby, and they have a device that could trigger its eruption. They've also developed a sensor that mimics an overturned boat, which would attract the sharks toward the volcano. Some of the crew are skeptical, especially about how they'll deliver the devices, but Shaw reminds them that they have Nathan, their pilot, for the job. With the plan in motion, Nathan sets off on his critical mission after receiving the necessary equipment from Shaw. As he flies close to the shark pack, he descends too low, and one of the sharks leaps up, sinking its teeth into the plane. The aircraft crashes, and Nathan is tragically consumed by the shark. The vital sensor is left floating on the water's surface. The team, disheartened by Nathan's loss, starts discussing Plan B. Barrick proposes that if he can push the boat to 30 knots, they might be able to launch the sensor and escape the volcanic eruption in time. Nichols, determined to take the risk herself, decides to use her kitesurfing skills to deploy the sensor. Skillfully maneuvering over the waves, she manages to avoid the sharks and grab the floating device. Meanwhile, Dr. Shaw contacts the station to put them on standby. The scientists at the station activate the necessary systems and prepare to set the operation in motion. They agree to evacuate the station and launch the rocket remotely, unsure how the large-scale radiation from the volcano will impact the area. Meanwhile, Nichols successfully deploys the device in the correct location, which unfolds and lowers the necessary sensor to the required depth. Shaw contacts Westron to report that the device is in place, and her team confirms that everything is ready for launch. Shaw initiates the countdown, and the rig activates, sending a massive electric beam shooting into the sky. The team cautiously celebrates, watching as the beam reflects off the atmosphere and returns toward a sensor already positioned on the ocean floor. A staff member alerts the team that they need to disconnect the power, but while attempting to do so, she is thrown back and loses consciousness. Despite the setback, the beam triggers the dormant volcano, and its eruption begins to wipe out the sharks in the surrounding area. Dr. Nichols, on her kitesurf, makes a daring escape, racing toward the safe zone as the volcanic explosion intensifies. As the team waits anxiously, a massive wave forms from the eruption, and Barrick pushes the boat to full speed, trying to outrun the looming tsunami. Against the odds, they manage to ride the enormous wave without crashing. Meanwhile, Nichols is still gliding through the waves, but the alpha shark is hot on her trail. A thrilling chase ensues, with Nichols performing impressive jumps to evade the predator. During one of these maneuvers, the shark strikes, knocking the board from under her, and she falls into the water. Just in time, a speedboat arrives to rescue her. As the shark makes a final attempt to attack, Shaw hurls a spear into the creature, embedding a tracking beacon in it. Back at Westron, the unconscious scientist has regained consciousness, and calm has returned. Barrick's boat finally returns to the station, bringing the much-needed iridium to launch the rocket. However, the scientists report that they are short on power, and it will take 2 or 3 days to repair the equipment. Unfortunately, time is not on their side, as the pumps that keep Westron afloat have been damaged, and the station is slowly sinking. The rocket must be launched before the station goes under. As the team contemplates where to find the energy needed for the rocket launch, Dr. Shaw reveals that the sensor installed on the Alpha Shark is showing intriguing data. The alpha uses its strong electromagnetic organ to control the other sharks, and if they can decode its signal, they could harness a massive energy source. Meanwhile, a pack of sharks, led by the alpha, closes in on Westron. The team scrambles into position, ready to execute their plan. Barrick questions how they plan to control the alpha shark, and Nichols clarifies that direct control isn't necessary. The key is to simulate the alpha's signal and broadcast it to the rest of the sharks. The team finishes preparing the iridium, scrubbers, and other essential equipment for the rocket launch. But just as they're making progress, the sharks launch a full-scale attack on the station. In a heroic effort to protect Bia, the charismatic savior operator sacrifices his life to fend off one of the predators. During the chaos, Nichols successfully intercepts the alpha's signal, and Shaw uses it to trap the shark, securing the power source needed to launch the rocket. As the automatic countdown begins, the rocket successfully takes off. However, during the launch, Shaw is pulled into the water by the alpha where the shark devours her mercilessly. Furious, Nichols uses the captured signal to command the other sharks to turn on the alpha. Initially, the sharks attack as planned, but after overpowering them, the alpha shark shifts its rage toward the humans and charges at the boat. In its assault, the alpha becomes lodged in the boat's cabin. With the situation growing desperate, the battered Barrick steers the boat directly toward Westron, jumping into the water with Nichols just before impact. The boat crashes into the station at full speed, triggering a massive explosion that finally takes out the alpha shark. Barrick and Nichols swim safely to the pier, where Bia and the remaining crew greet them. They urge everyone to evacuate the station before it sinks completely. 6 months later, the survivors are aboard a boat, and they spot the top of the Statue of Liberty and the peaks of New York's skyscrapers emerging from the water. Smiling at each other, they realize the water is slowly receding, offering hope for the future.